Okay, so the summary of the Maimer so far. That Eikev, which means when, but also means a heel. VeHoyo Eikev tishma'on. It's also the famous Pirush that Eikev on the heels of Mashiach. VeHoyo Eikev, it'll be by Eikev at the Mashiach on the heels of Mashiach. So that tishma'on, the guarantee that Yidden will listen. It's not the Pirush. So Rashi brought also from the Medrash that David HaMelech was not concerned with the serious Avedas, but the small ones, the Eikev, the ones that are tread underfoot. And he explained the various psukim thereafter, the big chiddush, that the foot stumbles, but the head falls and gets hurt the most. So the highest levels of the neshama, even though it's a small, as it were, less significant transgression, but the higher levels of the neshama is affected. And he wrote the various psukim that convey that. And the various imagery and choice of words of the psukim, particularly in the Haftarah of Shuva Yisrael. Then he brought the Alter Rebbe's Eitzah. Why do you need an Eitzah? Because if we're only dealing with the actual limb itself, the sin itself, then fix it. It's obvious what has to be done. But since we're talking about that it causes a yerida and a blockage of the koichas makifim of the neshama, how do you fix that? The transcendent koichas of the neshama, the head, the rosh, the Yisrael, the li rosh, not the Eikev, Yud Eikev. Now, the Rebbe explains that's why he needs to give an Eitzah, because how do we fix that? The question, the problem is clear. Yeah, so he answered the Alter Rebbe that the way to be misaken and to be mamshich, the soivev and makif levels of the neshama is not of a rachaman, but of a rachamim. He explained the difference at length. That of a rachaman is based on a cheshbon to some degree, and of a rachamim is truly boundless. Belishir. And then he explained the psukim k'ovi ve'imi asavuni va'ya yafseini. First teaches the two pirushim he gave. They are no, the first one and the second. First appears at the end of the second paragraph of his base, and the second at the end of the next paragraph of his base. What's the first pirush in Ovi ve'imi asavuni? V'Hashem yasveini. From David Hashem Eiri. Exactly what we're talking about now. You see it? What's the end of the second paragraph of his base?
First part of the pasuk is other alphabet.
Huh?
The first part of the pasuk is other alphabet, the level of other alphabet.
That Avi ve'imi what's of is over Rachaman. And what's Vavai Yafseini? That's over Rachamim. That was the Pirush at the end of that. And what's the Pirush in V'yesh L'Hoisif that he adds in the next paragraph of his base, the last one? V'yesh Loima. Based on what? He explained the degree of the Rachmanis. Why is it a big Rachmanis? Not just because of what happened, but also because even added Rachmanis on top of the Rachmanis.
You don't feel how far.
We don't even realize what happened. We don't even realize the Rachmanis in us. We don't appreciate the Rachmanis in us. That's Avi ve'imi azavuni. My father and mother have forsaken me. Avi is Chachman. Imi is Bina. The paucity of my understanding, I cannot appreciate the yerida that I have caused and my pnimius aneshama. And therefore, v'avai yasveini, I need the Eibish's rachmim Rabbi, because the rachmanas is even greater. And that's, I explained to you, that's the thing, like The Rebbe could be other, I don't remember. That a shoyte osel rachem olav. Explain the Bir Apich. Remember? What was the word? Think Al Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab. I can't remember. What's the word? How great is the Rachmanis? The Torah says you can't have a Rachmanis. He's saying that word is saying we're saying here. The first dark is of Racham. How great is it of Racham? And also, as in tied to, you must. Because you're such a fool, he doesn't even know what he did to himself. But that's our condition. If we need Avarachimim, is Gimel. Yesh lekashe calls them avubel kodotir lishpashes seinu. Did this yesterday or not? No. Huh? No. So, Mekash this without the Rebbe says in the beginning of the parsha, Eikev, if you are mask on the pasuk, if you are chilcha saman, Moishe Rabbeinu was telling the Rebbe to give you the manna, and he describes how they want to appreciate it for so. That this maamar is found in other books, other collections of Maamarim of the Alter Rebbe, V'shom Tzuyin Shom Mishabes Avarchim Elul Shnas Tov Kuf Nun Vav. There, in other sources, it says that he said this maamar on Shabbos Avarchim Elul Tov Kuf Nun Vav. If that's so, how is it Madushim Shlifli Petabak? That's from Maamarim before Ha'tשכ. But one of them is Shemishnas Tov Kuf Nun Tes. So if it's from Tov Kuf Nun Tes, 1798, then it's after Petabak, after Ha'tשכ. Or 1799. So there it says, the pasuk says, and he gave him, Moishe says to the Yidden in his rebuke, he fed you the man, which you never knew, you never experienced, and your forefathers never experienced. In order to let you know, how does the pasuk continue? That not on bread alone does man live, but by the word of God. So there's no bread, so the word of God, manna from heaven. That's a simple meaning. Now the Alter Rebbe asks there in this maamar that appears in all these places, what is he adding by saying, and your forefathers didn't know it? He fed you manna that you never experienced before, finished. What's the add that you and your forefathers also didn't know it? This will be answered much later in the maamar. He says in 19, says Sifhei. So the Umavayer, and explains, so the footnote has to tell us that the words Umavayer is not going to answer this question. That's later. He's first introducing something else. Umavayer Shamon b'chinas tal. The man is the level of dew, of tal. Moshe Kosev, as the pasuk describes in Pashas B'Shalach, Vatal Shichvas Atal, and the layer of dew arose and covered the man. Actually, it was a bed for the manna fell, and then it covered it. For who? And this dew is the tal she'osid lachis b'yisamesim, the dew by which God will revive the dead when Mashiach comes. Who b'chinas, and that's the level we're speaking about here now. Rachamim Rabim, like we say in Shmoneh Esrei, Machayim Meisim, v'Rachamim Rabim. It's this boundless level of Rachamim that's from whence comes the inyan of Tchias HaMeisim, and that's what the manna was a taste of. And he'll explain the significance of Shalai Yodin of Yisachar later, that your forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, didn't know this. So that continuing the Alter Rebbe's maamar, Mamshich Shom, the Alter Rebbe continues there. What is this level of Rachmim Rabim? In Eikev it says about the Nevuah Los Davi, we encountered this recently, this pasuk. The Navi says, Yidimiya, in Hashem's name, was Aratis Beis Yisrael, I will seed the house of Israel, Zera Adam, Zera Behema, the seed of man and the seed of Behema. Rashi brings two Perushim, you recall. Anybody remembers? Pashut Zera Adam and Zera Behema means the more intelligent and even the simple. You will all flourish. Second Pirush he gives is that you will flourish abundantly like the Behema. But the Bir Apichsidis is there's two levels of Neshama, Zera Adam and Zera Behema. Which actually hinted, really in Rashi's, not hinted, pretty much stated in Rashi's first Pirush. Pirush, Yesh Neimin in Neshamas, there's two kinds of levels of Neshama, B'chinas Adam, B'chinas Behema. Vaye, and explains the Alter Rebbe, Behema, B'chinas Behema, Koyal, B'chinas Avas Olam. There's Ava Rabba and there's Avas Olam. Eternal love and great love. Or worldly love, literally, and great love. So Behema is Avas Olam. That's a level of love of God that is engendered how? Shemekabli B'chinas Pnei Sheme'asmoil. So Behema, the Behema receives, is feminine, receives from the Pnei Shor, the image of the ox, which bears aloft the Merkava, which is on the left, which is Gevura, which means it's a limited revelation. Shobchinas Gevura Hamaylim Master Chayes the Kusha B'Seich Olam is the Pnei Shor Merkava means Hashem's divine attribute of Gevura that conceals the divine energy that's invested in creation. And the recipient of that, and therefore Neshamas are called Behema here. This level, Lashon Nukva, feminine, Shemekabelis Pnei Shor, which receive from the level of Shor and receive this Hashpah through Tzimtzum. Are we clear what that means? Basic ideas. Yes? And so therefore, Avas Olam, therefore, the love that such a neshama engenders is all based on the world, looking at the world and seeing its complexity and beauty, etc. So that leads him to a love of God described of Avas Olam. Why? Because he's part and parcel of the world's Hakabolas. He is the level of Zera Behema that's Mekabel from the Pnei Shor Shemekava through, which means Hashpah through many Tzimtzumim. And that comes invested and tailored to creation, Teva. Are we clear or not? Folks need a response. Yeah. That's Bezera Behema. Chinas Adam ho, and then I will seed the seed of Adam, Commissioner Kosev, al Demus, on top of the chariot is the Kisei, and on top of the Kisei is Kamari Adam. The image of man. So this is Neshamas, basically, it's Neshamas Datzilis. Low Neshamas and Neshamas of Biyah, Riyah, and more actually Yitzirah and Asiyah, and the Zera, all the Neshamas Datzilis. VeHoyo Mori, the masters of Torah. Whereas the low Neshamas, their forte is the masters of good deeds. Mitzvahs. Here it's also mitzvahs. Well, Derech Moshe, because mitzvahs, of course, are delineated in Torah. So it goes on to say, Derech Moshe K'mayo Adam. A person, sheyesh be'ramachi v'arveshsaki, the person has 248 limbs and 365 gidim, whatever that means, it's different pirush. Kach ha'Torah remach mitzvahs esa, the Torah has 248 positive commandments. Shasam mitzvahs leisas and 365 prohibitions. So that's the what? That is the Zera Adam, the masters of Torah. This is a mensch whose body reflects Torah. So far, Zera Behema is lower. Is lower than Zera Adam. Clearly, yes. However, Mamshid Alter Rebbe continues, Sheyesh Eid Behema, B'chinas Behema, this level of Behema, the great behemoth, Shalamayim B'chinas Adam, that's higher than Adam. V'hu Anikra Behema Rabba, that's the great Behema, B'shem Behema Rabba. And that level of a yid, that neshama, which is bound up with the lower level of behemoth, the premise of it all. So that is a love for God that is not avas olam, but ava Rabbi, boundless. Shibchin is not a love because of seeing God in creation, but a love of the Eibishter and his boundless truth. Shibchin is ava Rabbi. So why behemoth? Because shalamayla min adas hamusik umelubesh teicha ilamis. It's higher than knowledge and understanding. Which is invested l'chayra in creation. What level is this? So this is the level of Sevev that the Yid connects to. The Kula can make Shiv Mamish, before which all is equally insignificant. This is again all to explain what? Avarachamim, not Avarachamon. This is Ava Rabba, Behema Rabba, not Avas Eilam, not Stam Behema. High even then, Zera Odom, which is Seich, at the end of the day. Mamshich Levaye, the Alter Rebbe continues to explain, Shemisham, it's from this level of Sevev Kalalmin, the Kula Kemekilo Chashiv. Sometimes that's divided. Sevev is one level, and Kula Kemekilo Chashiv refers to Atzmus. But here it's one general address. It's from here comes the Rachmim Rabbi. Interesting moshel, hard-hitting moshel. By way of illustration, an earthly king because of his elevation and his loftiness and elevation over all the ministers and officers and all the people. So yesh midas rachmanas yosei, it's got a greater measure of rachmanas. Shemerachem al kulam, he has pity on all of them. It's not arrogance and it's not disdain. It's true rachmanas. They're all lower and gruim, and actually grua means worse, flawed and worse.
Inferior.
Yeah, inferior. Yeah, maybe a better word. Yeah. Therefore, the Rachmanis is very great in his view. On the greatness and the intensity of their lowliness. That's what brings that moshel. So too, as a manner of speaking by the Ein of Baruch, by the Eibush Shakol B'Tei the Metzias, Nagdis Baruch all is actually insignificant before him. Blessed be he. Kula Kamei, Kula Mamish, Kalech Shiva Kamei. Everything Mamish is of no significance at all. Yafilo Elimis El Yoinim, even the loftiest worlds. Kedichsiv Hein Shemayim Lezacha Beinav. Indeed, Pasuk in Eir, yeah. Even heaven is not found meritorious in his eyes. This is all invoked very graphically on Yom Kippur in the Piyutim. And therefore the Rachmanis is exceedingly great on them. They're lowly and what do you say, inferior, absolutely. The tachlis hashiflos, absolute lowliness, negda yisbarach, before him. Moishe, Levainath continue, Shafila, Pchines, Gan Eden, not finished. Rachmanis extends even to Gan Eden, Elyon, Gan Eden, Atacht. Imagine, a person's whole life, he wants to get to Gan Eden. Now, Rebbe says, Gan Eden, Sach, big Rachmanis, and Gan Eden. That's where you want to go. That's your motivation. So I feel I begin Gan Eden Elyon Natachten Neufel bei Rachmanis and I'll leave in Gan Eden Elyon Mamish Gan Eden Natachten the Rachmanis supplies Keinyan al Gan Eden or Tzadikim Yeshvim V'nenim Ziv Ashchina. Because what's Gan Eden? Tzadikim sit there and delight and draw pleasure in the rays of the divine Shechina. That's Rachmanis. Yes, it's the Alter Rebbe. Because it's only a ray. It's a mere glimmer. I mean, Spashet is a man is having a good time, but it's Rahmanet. And that's even the bigger Rahmanet. Because you're having a good time, and you're not longing for, or asking, clamoring for connection to for the truth. That's what the Alter Rebbe said, right? Ich will sehr gar nicht. Aber bei Beatzmai bechweide leishayach ze klal. But in him, to sit there and enjoy and have a revel and have a good time, is not shaykh at all. The Eishem V'nenim is not shaykh in him. Because there, everything is bottle of Metzias. You don't disappear. You become one. When your Metzias, sense of independence is gone. Not I'm having a good time, but rather how fun is this? But rather there not there they incorporate in his yichud and his achdos, and there's nothing separate. That would be deserving of a name and a title, like Gan Eden, etc. Totzrachmanis. We say them is moreover, I feel Gan Eden sorry. Shafril begin as Eden, Shalamayne begin as Gan. The level of Eden, which the mamish tainduk, should begin as Chachma, Rachmanis. Never all of Kulam Chachma says a Chachma is no better than Asiya. Shenechsav, begin as Asiya, Gashmis, the Galkish Baruch Hu, that Chachma is equal to Asiya, Gashmis relative to Hashem. Physical Asiya. Rachmanis says that it's a great Rachmanis. Eich Sheyar, the Kolkach, begin as Neshamas is sold to descend in Bechinas Mata down here. Yes, Nechshav Kaloi Mamish Kamei Kanal.
We descended so much that we are considered nothing.
It's Sefer Kalam. It's also about. The difference is in Sefer Kalam, he stresses not the bittul there, but the yichud. And here, it's your insignificance. So this is what the Alter Rebbe says. This is what a Yid has to think about. This is what the maskil, what the insightful person has to think about. To arouse, not stam rachmim, but rachmim rabim, when he contemplates all of this. No, but if he's going to settle for Gan Eden, what if he doesn't settle? You know what? I'll be happy for Gan Eden. So then the Rahman is even greater. You hear what the Rebbe is saying here? That Yid has to have a Gan Eden, Rahmanis. And the Rahmanis on one who that's all he aspires to. And that's the tikkun. This is all the tikkun. The only tikkun the Alter Rebbe says for kichashalta benach, for stumbling, and the reisha of the neshama is paralyzed, blocked, and falls. In the moshel, the head falls and gets bruised more than the foot, than the body. The body falls, but the head gets bruised. The head's in pain. In light of the above, therefore, we have a great explanation because, you say this, Rachmim Rabim. This holding, being by Rachmim Rabim, it's not only when the situation where a person is transgressed. Chet means not deliberately of it, it's deliberate. Oh, there's Aveda, but relax. Even if the Aveda is b'shleimus, hey Aveda is behema. whether the avodah is that's avas olam, behem the avodah shmitzad b'chinas adam, and that thinking of ava, no, ava rabbas behem rabbas. Adam is a higher. He didn't identify level of ava that is. It's a higher level in avas olam.
Atzilus. Adam of Atzilus.
Yeah, but it didn't describe the ava. This avas olam. It's a higher level in avas olam. So hey, it didn't peg it with the title. So hey, now so then in the gamos yeshna inyan the seiras rachmim rabbi. Even when the avodah is b'shleimus. Mikolshke mizeshi na rachmanas neifel abchinas Gan Eden. If there's rachmanas, even on Gan Eden, there's rachmanas in his avodah too. Shinyana is chara mitzvahs. What's Gan Eden is a word for mitzvahs. She said, "Hatayna gamiti." It's the greatest pleasure possible. She yeshiv and Nanim Meziv Ashchina sitting and delighting in the rays of the divine presence. And we're saying that that's also Rachmanis, and much more so, therefore, on his Shleimus Avodah, even his perfect Avodah. No, forget your perfect offerings, that's Leonard Cohen. As it continue. He has a line, everything has a crack, that's how the light gets in, but there's a line, yes, forget your perfect offerings. Rachmanis. We said before, not only Eden, but not even Gam, but even the level of Eden. It's also Rachmanis. We should cause it because we know Yetzim Eden, that's just as Gan. That Gan Eden is a result of the river that flows out of Eden. So it's all one in here ultimately. So it's all what? Lust in divine light and rays. It's all very nice. But no me, says God. Shazeh Omru, about Eden, it says he's bringing out the Gvaldik and Mile of the level of Eden. About the level of Eden, Chazal say in the Gemara in Berachos, Kol Navim Kul Lein Yisnava L'Meisa Mashiach. All the prophecies of Navim, only Yemaisa Mashiach. About what's going to be after Mashiach comes. I saw it. Only God, you alone, and that's the level of Eden. And these are audacious things to say. It only be said that by the Shaman, Moishe and Atzmas. Only by a Rebbe can say such a thing. On the level of Eden of Aili Rosa Lekim Zelasecha. That's where you want, that's where you're going, Rachmanis. Abisha says you can come and know me, not all of the glitter. That's all beautiful and divine and godly. Let's continue. Mamshich Levaye, and the Rebbe continues. What a mimer. Imagine listening to this, but that's being said. Try to imagine. You notice that my modim are profound askol and profound avodah. Very like I told you many times that I've been told the Nissen Nemenov that the Maimer Shabbos is in accordance with how the Bochrim conducted themselves Chassidus that week. The crop of Bochrim in those years were Krem de la Krem. They were Minkiewicz, they were Shapiro, they were Mizarchi, all these guys. Huh?
I said, and especially Chafei, a lot of the Maimarim are based on Likutei Torah because it was printed for the first time in 18 years, 17 years.
Yeah, because and it demanded to learn the Torah every week that week. Yeah. Story with your father was what year? It was Chafei.
Yud Beis Adar, Tafshel Chafei.
Yes, just so you got the new Torah, it was just printed. Okay, weiter, a few minutes. Mamshich Levaya. Shayidei Ais Bonalis Anal. So Yid thinks into this. He thinks into this. He thinks into that, all his aspirations. He wants to experience this. He wants to be that or the other. It's one big Rahmanas on him, if that's where you're at. So then he thinks about that. And he knows he doesn't even appreciate the Rahmanas, but on some level, the Maimed is opening us up. So he's being Ba'ered, so through that, he's in Ba'ered Rachmim Rabbi Man Nafsh. This is boundless, this raw truth that he faces. So this is Moira, the Eibush is Rachmim Rabbi. That, in other words, this puts him in, that connects him. That's the connection. And that desire, therein is the connection. And that Achmondas on appreciation, and that Somal Chanavshi, therein lies the connection. And the result is he's revived. Revival of the dead mamish. Mamish. You didn't have to add the word mamish, but he adds the word mamish. This is all the tal, the dew. It happens to the dew. Kosov gital oireis talach. Actually, the pasuk, for the dew of your lights are your dew. Tal oireis. Vo tolo the notif mipuma datika. This is the dew that drips from the ancient mouth. Mipuma datika kadisha, from the mouth of the Holy One, the ancient one, rather. Blessed be He. And that's the manna. Because of its appearance, like the appearance of crystal. And that's this darga. The hind of Bechinas Tola the Bedulcha. This is the dew of crystal, the notif matika that drips from Atik. So all to say, the thinking of the manna is this Rachamim Rabim, from where comes the Tchias HaMeisim. The Neshama connects to the truth of the Eibush, the Kveda Ba'atzmai, and that's what the manna is. That's what the Eibush gave a taste of in the desert, and it falls in a layer of dew, and it's wrapped in dew, and its appearance is this crystal. It's all the same darga. It's a pasuk in Beshalach, in Ba'aloischa. And it appears like crystal, white like crystal. So we'll continue tomorrow. Beis Hashem is going to answer the question why Moshe Rabbeinu told them that you got this and your forefathers did not taste it. What's it negated that the forefathers did? So we'll see. I've explained all we did, all that we did, the explanation to that. So today's story.